Hello, and welcome to anyone who happens to be watching. I am your KevinlyFather. This is Spilling Covfefe, so get your Covfefe out. We're just going to look at things and react. This is a big react video. It's live. I honestly don't know if it's broadcasting or not. Let's go check it out. This is my temporary setup. I have a temporary leg right now. Let's just see if it is coming through. It looks like it is. And let me see if the chat room is working. It is. Welcome, producer Joanna, or at this point, Nurse Joanna. A little secret, folks. That's not a secret. Good morning, Marcy. I have a little bit of a broken paw right now, and so I am lying on the couch while doing this. Literally, that's how lazy I am. My foot was healed about a week and a half ago, but I just kept the boot on for the sympathy. And that's who I am, and that's okay, right? Because everyone is perfect in their own way, and my way is highly imperfect, but perfect nonetheless. Hi, Tracy. Hey, Stephanie. Hey, Libby. Wow, Deidre. Wow. Hi, guys. Boy, people were flooding in here this morning. I apologize for anything technically that goes wrong. What are you going to do? My morning started. I woke up and my foot is not in tremendous pain, which is good news. And then I pulled the towel rack off the wall. So I have something to do later. So that's nice. Actually, I do have something to do a little later. I'm shooting a commercial. Yeah, I thought for like 2 solid months I'd have no work because I have a broken foot, and then I booked a job because the commercial is I'm entirely in bed. I'm a husband in bed keeping my wife awake by snoring or something. I'm not even really sure. But I'm in bed the entire time. So I show the casting director and the director and the producers and everything. I'm like, my leg is broken. But two things: A, I can do it if you don't make me stand up, and B, I'm completely yours for the anytime you want to shoot in the next 2 months. I have no conflicts whatsoever because nobody else will hire me. There are very few commercials where you spend the entire time in bed. I just happened to be in one and I booked it, so I'm happy about that. Okay, let's pop these on. Let's see what we should be outraged by today. Yesterday, or I guess yesterday morning, early morning New York time, somebody set fire to the Fox and Friends Christmas tree right outside, which is terrible. People don't set fire to Christmas trees. Don't set fire to trees in general unless they're in your fireplace, and then that's actually what we're supposed to be burning. So just really right thing, wrong location. That was the lead story on Fox yesterday. Tucker, Hannity, everybody. That was the big Laura Ingraham. I'm sure talked about it. That is the biggest story in the news right now. Is a Christmas tree being set on fire. No injuries, but a Christmas tree being set on fire. That's your top story. So I suspect that, in fact, I can see on the screen arson suspect freed without bail. I guess they've got the guy because they caught the guy immediately. It sounded like a crazy homeless person or something. I don't know if he's homeless or not. This is New York. There's no homeless people in New York. That's what I've heard. Yeah, they released him right away because it's not a violent crime, so to speak. It's bad. Don't do it. I'm not endorsing burning Christmas trees. But without bail, yeah, there should be bail. But the whole bail system's broken. The whole idea. But in this country, you are innocent until proven guilty. In cases like this, where we have video of the guy doing it, give him a lawyer. Let's have a court case. Next day, I know it's too crowded. There's no way to do it. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, Stephanie says I found out that I can do like a screen print with my Cricut and can make the t-shirts if I can get artwork in the t-shirts. Oh, that hurts me. I'm the worst person because I still haven't gotten t-shirts for my patrons. And you guys are all wonderful, and I wish I could get t-shirt and I can. And that's a project I could be doing right now instead of lying on the couch feeling sorry for myself. Let's see. It was a metal cage with tinsel. No, I think they're I don't know if there's an actual tree in there because I saw them building the new one. We might see some of it this morning on Fox and Friends. But let's dive right into it. Let's take a look. Let's see. I hope you guys can hear. Let's find out. How do I do this now? Here we go.
motivation.
But the judge
Okay, it looks like you guys can hear. I can hear. So we are good to go.
could ask him.
Oh, but what I did read in the New York Post was that it cost $500,000. A 50-foot tree, $500,000. You know, because baby Jesus. There are literally homeless people wandering up and down the street in front of this tree, and the tree, decorated entirely in red, white, and blue, costs $500,000. Think about how much you make a year, and then put that into the context of a temporary tree that costs $500,000. Anyway.
Be under suspicion and keep him locked up.
Well, he might have. But here's what we do know. According to the New York Post, which is co-owned with us, felony.
You got to go back a little bit to see. I guess I jumped ahead in the story here. That's the guy, I suppose. Let's find out. Let's find out together. Come on, Fox, do your thing. And now it doesn't want to play. Here we go.
It's not on fire.
Right.
Oh, we got to fast forward through the music.
Police department is freed without bail despite a long rap sheet.
Treason.
We know more
Get
about
it?
that guy right there. 49-year-old Craig Tamahana. After he was arraigned yesterday, he said, "I didn't do it." He denied the arson. Then he hurled obscenities at the reporters before asking the reporters, "Hey, does anybody have a cigarette?"
Right. His family knows he's crazy. He also, they were probing whether
Standing next to a tree.
right after
He was asking for a light, is what he was asking
could have
for.
found a way
Why? Why? What?
against Fox News.
Here's the
I don't know what was happening there. Let me go back here.
Video of him doing.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, apparently there's video of him doing it. We got to back it up. Sorry, guys. There we go. I'm broadcasting from my computer to a TV, and I'm trying to control it with one hand on the keyboard, and it didn't necessarily work. So again, technical difficulties along with a broken foot. Here we go.
He hurled obscenities at the reporters before asking the reporters, "Hey, does anybody have a cigarette?"
Right. His family knows he's crazy.
Again, most important story in the world right now. This is your lead story, people.
He also, they were probing whether he's trying to light up the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. They're looking into that. He was outside the Maxwell trial, and evidently he walks around this block all this time.
Yeah, he's a mentally ill homeless person. Okay?
And he's probably going to come back.
Yeah.
You know, and thank goodness Sid.
He may, in fact, have somewhere to live. Okay? But he is a mentally ill man who wanders the neighborhood.
Mike, our guy, was able to tackle him to the ground right after. I can imagine if he got away, but video of that exists.
I can imagine if he got away, yes. And I would feel all right with that. I'd be okay with that. Hold on, I'm imagining the world with this man not currently in prison because he was never arrested. Well, it's the same as it is right now anyway.
Video of him doing this exists, and yet no judge could find a way to keep this.
Has anyone seen the video, by the way, of this guy lighting the Christmas tree? I've seen the video of the Christmas tree on fire, but I haven't seen the guy actually doing it. Is that video out there?
This guy locked up. It's unbelievable.
He wasn't eligible for the bail under these new liberal reform laws.
That's right.
But the judge would.
So it's the liberals' fault that this man is mentally insane. The liberals who keep trying to get more and more help for the mentally ill so that they can be counseled and perhaps helped.
Could have found a way to keep him locked up if he felt as though he was a threat to society. Note to judge, he's a threat to society.
Well,
he's a threat to artificial Christmas trees on the street. And since he burned down the only one that's there, and the next one is going to be guarded by the National Guard, we're probably okay.
here's the thing.
Here's the thing. Alec Baldwin, go.
In New York, under the new liberal policies of bail reform, arson is only a felony. You can only be held if it's a felony. If the suspect tries to harm a person or commits a hate crime. And apparently lighting a Christmas tree on fire is not a hate crime.
But
Did they ask him if it was a hate crime? Did they ask him why did you light the Christmas tree? Oh, he's a little bit nuts. Okay.
it is, you
Even though
could
a lot
say.
of
I mean, was it because he hates Christians? Like we have no idea. Probably because he had a lighter and he saw a tree, and it's not even a real tree. Or maybe he hates Fox News. Is Fox News a protected minority? I don't know.
people could have been injured.
Hold on a second. What? Cricket. Oh, Stephanie has something called a cricket. Okay. Cricket. It's like a bedazzler. I'm just going to call it a bedazzler. That was Nurse Jojo helping me with what Stephanie has there. It's a cleaner, Joanna. She's apparently using Windex on something right now.
Yeah. But here's the thing.
Who says it's not a hate crime against us, against Fox News?
Oh, don't go in my bathroom. That's just a general. That's a good rule overall.
News.
Here's the thing. What we do know for sure,
What?
and we don't know the guy's motivation.
But the judge could ask and be under suspicion and keep him locked up.
Well, he might have. But here's what we
He might have. Yeah, he might. So, like, I'd hate to be Steve Ducey because both of them yesterday were on the couch correcting Brian over and over and over again, and Brian would say, "Yeah, that's a good point," but and then go on with his nonsense. And they'd say, but that did happen. Oh, but that's a good point. But just go on. This is their job, just to frequently correct Brian and be ignored.
do know, according to the New York Post, which is co-owned with us, that Christmas tree was $500,000.
I know.
Yes, it was.
So this guy torches $500,000.
Or not. This is from the New York Post, so we cannot depend on those figures at all.
Worth of property, and he gets to walk. I mean,
And then
you know,
Fox
we've been
Property. Yes, property. It's a property crime. But yeah. Speaking of property crime, my little scion that lives up in Seattle was broken into the other day, and they broke the back window, which is going to cost about $300, more than $300 to fix when you throw in the taxes and everything. This time it happened before, and they stole my hockey gear, and I actually got my hockey gear replaced. My insurance company sent me a letter or a check for it, which was awesome. So thanks, guys. This time they broke into it. There was nothing of value in it. There were some hockey sticks, the ones I don't use. So they took those out and threw them on the ground. They just basically busted my window. There's nothing of value in there. So now I think my son's going to just keep it at his place and drive it around like every once in a while to keep it in movement. I mean, I don't think it makes a difference. I said just leave it open. Like, don't even give people motivation to break in there. And I didn't even report it because the last time I reported it, the cops don't come out. They don't do anything about it. There's just too much of this crime around. And this is Seattle. But yeah, I had a car broken into. This is near the downtown area in Seattle. This is an area where there's lots of homeless people wandering around setting Christmas trees on fire and breaking into my car. But there's just so much of that crime, and we do not give enough money to the police to do anything about it. And we can't keep all these criminals in jail. There's just no room in all the jails. And both parties have thought it would be a good idea to try and get people out of jail as soon as possible. So that's where we are until something happens to them, and then they get very upset by the whole thing. Anyway, it's fine. They didn't steal anything. It's going to cost me $300, which is literally more than the car is worth. It's an '05 Scion with 250,000 miles on it. One of the cylinders doesn't fire anymore, so it runs, but it's like, and I keep saying, when it dies, that's it. We donate it to the animals, and they can get some money out of it at the auction. But the auction a couple of years ago offered to give me $250 for it. But it's worth more to me because my son can drive it around. So anyway, here we go. I should look at how much it's worth now because, no, Carvana's not going to buy an '05 Scion. If you have a used car and you don't need it right now and it's a fairly recent model, Look at Carvana, look at CarMax, etc. They will give you cash for that car. They are desperate for used cars right now.
Talking
Build
out
it back,
in
so it will
California
cost
about
$1 million.
By the way, the lead story right now on the news, I don't know if it was out by the time Fox and Friends aired this morning. The lead story right now, we just had, again, for the second week in a row, the lowest jobless claim numbers for the week in my lifetime. A new record. It won't be covered.
Total eventually.
Sure, out in California, we've been talking about, well, you can steal up to $1,000 worth of stuff and you won't wind up in jail. Here, apparently, you can torch $500,000 worth of property and you walk. He's out and about this morning.
It's unbelievable.
Right, but that's the standard procedure. Until you're convicted, you're innocent. It's in the Constitution. You can't be charged unreasonably. You can't be held. You have a right to a speedy trial. This is all in the Bill of Rights. You can't be forced to harbor British soldiers. That's the other thing. So if they try and make this guy host some British soldiers in his tent, or however, maybe a cardboard box on 4th, I have no idea where this guy lives. He has the right not to quarter British soldiers. Look it up.
But we are turning it into a good thing because Fox is donating $100,000 to the Answer the Call Foundation. It's where families who have lost firefighters or lost police officers, that money will go help those families.
Sure. So the police commissioner is going to be retiring. Dermot Shea says, I think it's definitely one where he's working alone. His mental illness a factor.
That is really, really great. I like that. Are they donating $100,000 to homeless people who need mental illness support? Are they saying, yes, we need universal health care so these people who have these mental illness difficulties can get treatment? Are we doing that? Is Fox News behind that 100%? Because Kevin McCarthy said he was yesterday. And yet, remember, we still don't have that tremendous health care. No, Marcy, in your case, if that British soldier is, I'm trying to think of a any military term you say can be used as a innuendo. So, for example, Marcy, you don't have to kick that soldier out as long as he keeps closing your ranks. You just say it, anything. I can't even think of it in military terms right now. My ear hurts now from this stupid headphone. Here we go.
Here we're looking at all of that.
You don't have to give him quarter, but if I were you, I'd give him half.
Of course it's a factor. Why wouldn't they keep him even under observation?
Right.
You just wonder, they burn a tree, no one's hurt. What about these, the other story yesterday? 2 days ago, a guy gets beat up by some lunatic.
Beaten up.
They let him out, and then
he's a lunatic, right? So are we helping the lunatic with his mental illness? No, we're not going to do that.
He beats up 2 women the next day, and then they let him out again.
Right. So he should be in a mental institute because he's a danger to himself and others. There is no room in the mental institutions, and who's going to pay for it? That's the problem. Do you see the problem here, guys?
We have a Christmas tree. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but they smoked out the whole first floor. But what about these people being assaulted repeatedly by the same people and the judges letting them out? And this story is emblematic of what's happening in Philadelphia, Chicago, and every major city across this country.
12 cities set annual murder records with 3 weeks still to go. They've already hit these records, and we still have 3 more weeks in this year.
What's interesting about it, when you look at the commonality,
that's actually not bad. If it was August, it'd be like, oh my God, that's terrible. Yeah, but during 2020, during Trump's regime, the homicide rate shot up across the country.
A thread. All of these cities are, for the most.
Don't go. I told you not to go in that bathroom. You had been warned. I'll fix the towel rack later.
Most part, Democrat-led, and
democratically,
they supported defunding the police, bail reform. They let dangerous offenders out. Also, one of the big problems with all of the crime, and you look right there. Look at that.
There's a lot of problems with crime. Hold on here. What do we got? These are Columbus, Ohio has a Democratic mayor, does he? Tucson, Arizona has a Democratic mayor. These are, I'd have to look up these cities. Let's see. U.S. CDC record number of homicides. Well, there's 500 cities in the country. So for only what is that, 12? However many cities that is, I'm not going to count them right now. For that many cities to set a record, that's pretty good, actually.
Philadelphia. We're going to talk about Philadelphia throughout the day because in Philadelphia,
Philly has a Democratic mayor, I can tell you that.
They shattered a 30-year record. They've had more murders than New York and L.A., and Philly only has 1.5 million people. It's half the size of L.A. and 1/5 the size of New York, and they're being...
So great job, New York and L.A. By the way, all we hear about up until now is how bad the murder rate is in LA and in New York, and they're not even on that list. So, all right. But if you happen to be a Christmas tree in New York, watch out, buddy.
New York.
Look at the previous records. 2020, 2020, 2020, 2020, 2019, 2020, 2020. So 7 out of those cities had their highest murder rates previously under the Trump administration. I'm sure there were graphics for that as well.
New York. These are the cities right here that are seeing a record. Apparently, we have not shattered a record here in New York City. But
oh, you know what? They'll keep trying, buddy. There's still 3 weeks.
One of the other things is, one of the problems is there's a sharp decline in the number of people who are being arrested, and then they're not winding up being detained before their trial. And so they're out and about, and they've got guns, and that's why we see this murder rate going through the roof.
30%.
Wait. Did you guys just hear what he said?
Number of people who are being arrested, and then they're not winding up being detained before their trial. And so they're out and about, and they've got guns, and that's why we see this murder.
So you've got a lot of people with guns who are out and about, and that's why we've got the murder rate. Not in the cities that have reformed the bail policies. I mean, I don't know if Toledo, Ohio has done anything major with their bail policy. I'll be honest with you, kids. I do not pay that close attention to the news that I know what's happening in terms of prison reform in Toledo, Ohio. But the fact is that these people have guns. Huh. It's a good point, Steve-O. I like it.
Murder rate going through the roof.
30% jump in homicides, but add this in. The retirement rate of police departments nationwide jumped 45% from 2020 to 2021. Another 18% of officers resigned, that according to the Police Executive Research Forum. So even if you decide to fund the...
No. Yeah, but overall, police forces were down 1% during 2020. 1%. Nationwide, 1%. Yes, retirements everywhere were way up last year because of the pandemic. And people are like, look, I'm so close. The departments are laying people off right now or furloughing people. I'll just take my retirements. And departments were like, yeah, absolutely. This was not just police officers. This was nationwide in so many different occupations. Yeah, no, you're 2 years from retirement. Let's do it now. Let's buy you out because our budgets are going to be slashed because of the pandemic, etc. We're not having the revenue come in. That's not a big deal. Up by 45% might be 0.5% of the police force to almost 1% of the police force, or about 0.75% of the police force. There's your 45% increase. Well, technically 0.73, but anyway, here we go.
The academies and continue to fund the police, even though many of your cities didn't because you thought it was a thing.
No. The police have been funded. There's a couple of cities out there where they hold on. I will never do something nice for you again. You're welcome. I understand you don't want me doing nice things. So this is spelling Covfefe because we're not going to stick necessarily to one topic. What I do is, so we have a Keurig machine for the coffee that has little pods. We have reusable pods, so we're not throwing all this waste into the garbage all the time. So we get regular coffee and we put it in these little reusable pods. and then you put it in and then you don't have to get the refillable or the disposable ones that are just it's extra junk, right? What are you doing? Oh, that's nice. Producer Jojo just found one of Kevinly daughter's blue hairs and then picked it up and put it like tinsel on the Christmas tree. So that's nice. So there's another advantage of spending all that money on hair dye. Yeah, population is aging. The boomers are now retiring. It's all part of the natural cycle. It would be increased last year. It would have been a record of people retiring in 2019 as well. We set records on retirement every year. By the way, the narrative in the right wing is that the economy is in shambles. It is not. The economy is doing fantastically. Yesterday, Biden went to Missouri, and oh my God, Missouri's falling apart. The economy's in shambles. What are we going to do? Missouri's GDP in the last quarter grew by 6.7%. That's astounding. Unemployment in Missouri is below 4%. That's fantastic, considering its pandemic highs. Last year at this time, even after recovering in October, people on the right wingers say, oh, because they're getting all this free money, nobody wants to work. That's why they're quitting. No, 4.4 million people quit their jobs last year. You don't quit when you're in financial peril. You keep working that job because you need that money. It's all nonsense. And nobody's getting all this free money. Remember, the extra unemployment in 19 states ended way back in the summer. And then for the rest of the planet, the rest of the United States, it ended September 4th or 5th, whenever Labor Day was this year. So all of that free money that they're getting from the federal government, it's not a thing. You could blame the child tax credit, but that is so popular. But for some reason, all of these people, these parents of 90 million kids that are getting $250, $500 a month, they don't realize where it's coming from because the Democrats are doing such a shit-ass poor job of letting the people know, hey, that money, it's from us. Which the right wing could take hold of and run with, because they could say, look at all these parents with kids that are getting this extra money from the government now. They don't need the job. They're quitting the jobs in record numbers. That's not what's happening, but they could say that, and it would almost make sense.
Do people saying keep your
Stephanie says, LOL, my purple hair will match my tree. Thanks for the decorating tips, Jojo. True. Anytime. Go to your hairbrush. Don't go in my bathroom. Go in your bathroom. Pull the purple hair out of your hairbrush. There's your tinsel. Let's see. Rex Soul said, did they just say it's guns on Fox? Yeah, guns are the reason for the increased homicide rate, but we're not going to do anything about that.
job because you're not backing me. Why would, for example, our guy puts his life on the line? We don't know if this guy was armed or not. Tackles him to the ground.
The arsonist.
Cops come flooding in, the arsonist, and now he's let out. Think about what that does to a police officer who's putting his life on the line or her life on the line every day. And now, before you even done with the paperwork, they're out again. After a while, I can't rationalize to my family why I'm putting my life on the line.
That's right.
No one's got my back.
That's why many
Brian is not putting his life on the line for anybody.
of them are retiring. We've seen those numbers go up and resigning. Robert Boyce, who's a retired chief of detectives for NYPD.
Chris Wilson says, my gray hair will look like old-fashioned tinsel on the tree. That's standard. So if you want to go classic, that's the way to go. I like it, Chris. Marcy says, ooh, Josh Duggar found guilty of icky sex stuff and faces up to 40 years. Oh, gross. Yeah, they're still on the Christmas tree. Now, granted, we've only, we're like...
He said no.
I think we're like 2 minutes into the broadcast. I don't even know what they're going to be outraged by in a second here, but right now we're on the tree because that's the most important story out there.
Nobody's getting arrested anymore. People are getting picked up for gun possession, and they're just let out over and over again.
Right.
Here's what Molly Hemingway had to say.
Oh, good.
Crime is rising. Violent crime in particular.
Crime is going down. Some violent crime is up in some cities. Crime is down overall, though.
Is rising.
This is a much better year for crime than, well, in terms of less crime than 2020.
And it's rising in those areas where Democratic leadership of local governments has.
And many Republican cities, yeah.
pushed policies like defunding the police, no cash bail, the election.
There is no criminal out there who thinks, you know what, I think I will go profit off of somebody else's misery because they're talking about defunding the police. No one thinks that way.
And using left-wing billionaire money.
There was crime, lots and lots of crime, before the police were being defunded or even being talked about being defunded, because they really haven't been defunded in many areas.
Of liberal DAs who refuse to prosecute crimes. And so in these communities and in the neighboring communities that are affected by it, people understand that this is a real thing that's happening.
It is real. And so many times we've heard.
And they're out and about with guns. That's what I heard on Fox.
Well, you know, the gun violence is related to gangs and retribution. But here's the thing. Innocent people.
Again, guns. Steve with the guns. He's on this thing today. Fucking libtard.
People are getting shot, and in many cases, they're getting killed. In Indianapolis, they've got a Democratic mayor, a fellow by the name of Joe Hogsett. He's blaming the gun violence on a public health crisis. He said coronavirus-fueled disruptions to violence reduction have left a lasting effect in the city. The mayor of Austin, Texas, Steve Adler, also a Democrat, said homicides are increasing, but you know what? Austin is still a safe city, and he said our per capita murder rate is one of the lowest.
Well, the White House is saying the same thing, blaming everything on the pandemic.
Well, that's good.
We've heard.
Oh, yeah, Trump never blames anything on the pandemic. We had the strongest economy in the history of the world. We didn't. And then China sent this virus over. They sent it in. I didn't want it to come. I told them nobody's been tougher on China. We never got 10 cents out of China.
That before. We heard that last week from Jen Psaki.
So what's the direction of the country? When asked by the Monmouth people,
Oh, good. Joe Piscopo's coming up.
30% are feeling good about it. The rest of the country, who is sober, 66% think we're on the wrong track. Sometimes
the vast majority of people always think we're on the wrong track because the news is all about dirty laundry. No matter what side of the bubble you live in, that's not right. The news is bad. No one gets on the news and says, well, the murder rate has gone down 3% in Dallas, Texas. I don't know that. I don't know that's a fact. No one does that because that's not news. Well, so-and-so was not arrested today for crimes against humanity. That doesn't lead. What leads the news? Important bad stories, like somebody burning a Christmas tree. That's why we're on the wrong track. So most people always think it's on the wrong track. I don't know. I don't have the monitors to look that up right now. But hold on. Producer Jojo is holding up a bagel and pointing at the bagel. Oh, would I like? Yes, I would like a bagel. Thank you.
things happen, like the pandemic that China won't own up to still, and it affects everything.
Won't own up to. Yeah. The more I think about this, and I've never seen anyone talk about this, there are two possibilities, realistic possibilities. One of them far less realistic than the other. Where did the coronavirus come from? Well, it could have come from the Wuhan lab. By the way, there are two labs in Wuhan from which it could have emanated, but we don't know. And the strains that we know of coronavirus that were being worked on at the Wuhan level 4 lab, those strains do not match the current coronavirus. Even with multiple mutations, this coronavirus that we have, the original alpha version, did not come from any of those sequences. It just couldn't naturally have happened. This has been explored. We know that. So it could have come from a lab, could have been man-made, or even though it's nothing in the chain of the virus, the RNA, etc., it could be indicative of that. But anyway, could have come from that. On the right, they're saying that's the most likely scenario. Or it could have originated zoonotically from transferring from animals to humans. The best place for that would be at a wet market. So, yes, there was a lab in that city. And there was a wet market. The odds of it being produced by men and women, I'm all about women's lib, The odd, and by the way, the head scientist of the project that everybody's on is a woman. So it could have been produced woman-made. A woman could have given birth to this virus. But then for that virus to first appear at a wet market, miles from the lab, not at a mall, not at a movie theater, not at a horse track, not any, at a wet market. The one logical place for it to appear, if it was zoonotically transferred, that's where it appeared. Now, there are people saying, well, we don't, that's not the first case, blah, 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 blah. But that's where the odds of it coming from here or here, we don't know. The odds of it coming from here and then appearing in the other likely scenario location, astronomical. So if you would just look at the math of it and say, which place is more like this place by far? Because you've got two unlikelihoods combining to the one likelihood. Anyway. And that's, I guess we're done. The rest, who else wants a bagel? Liberty wants a bagel. Marcy at random wants a bagel. Lots of orders for bagels here. Would I like some whitefish on that? Yes, I definitely would. Thank you. He's the best nurse.
Sometimes you get hit by war, 9/11, I get it. But this is a totally self-inflicted wound. Criminal justice reform was something totally different that President Trump
literally blaming the victim.
Passed. These cities.
Criminal justice reform was something that Trump passed and bragged about, which released offenders from prison. Now they're out and about with guns.
Reforming their bail laws, these no-cash bail laws, have hurt the most vulnerable. That's the working class areas, and now it's literally bleeding into the upper class.
What working class areas? What are you talking about?
Class areas, and now I'm wondering if enough rich people are forced to deal with what many working class are dealing with, they'll finally say, I'm going to use my common sense and start electing people that are going to watch my back. That's why.
So the rich people are electing people. Those are the people that vote. Is that what you're saying, Brian? Because what you're saying here makes zero sense.
Eric Adams has such an opportunity. He says, I'm a common sense Democrat trying to recruit New Yorkers back to New York from Florida and trying to say I'm going to put that criminal unit, that undercover criminal unit.
Oh, no. New Yorkers are moving to Florida. That's never happened before. During a time when we can now telecommute and get really cheap land in the Florida swamp, and get away from New York City and living in a crappy apartment for $2.5 million? Yeah.
Anti-crime unit back in to these major cities.
So Fox, I was watching a little bit yesterday because that's what I do. I lie on the couch now. They interviewed somebody talking about moving everyone. 30,000 people have moved out of New York City and gone to Florida. Oh, New York City's falling apart. It's a crime incessant and then halfway through the interview, she's, well, I haven't actually moved yet, but I am planning to. Like, why are we talking to this lady? Thank you so much. Oh, you're the best. No tomatoes? My God. Well, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, are you seriously? She's the best nurse. She's worried about losing her job. She doesn't understand there's 11 million jobs open in this country. New record, by the way. It's not a new record. There's been more jobs than that open during recessions and stuff like that. But this is the time for the workers, not these rich people that vote that Brian's talking about.
De Blasio immediately defunded when the Black Lives Matter protests began. So I think there's a real opportunity.
Yeah, Black Lives Matter is BLM, and then ALM, Asian Life Matters. They're the guys that would light Christmas trees on fire.
For Democrats to step up and sober up, like what we saw with Joe Manchin and John Tester yesterday when it came to getting rid of the vaccine man.
Hold on a second. Someone called me. Who called me this early? Weirdos. Oh, potential spam. Well, I will pay no attention to that whatsoever.
Mandate just show.
Marcy says JoJo needs to unionize.
Some common sense and stop being so political, and then you realize that people are dying because you're trying to be politically correct. It's not going to fly anymore.
Well, just the guy like just over there, he said they're dying because people are out and about with guns. I don't think it's got anything to do with political correctness. But if you have a problem with Trump releasing people from jail, massive people from jail, this is what he said, massive, like nobody's ever seen before. In order to go into the workplace, this is what the whole theory was behind the criminal justice reform. All these people would come out of jail and then immediately join the labor force. This was a way for the entitled, the elites, to get more cheap labor. Okay? Apparently didn't work. Now they're out and about with guns.
The American people.
Yeah, the American people are worried about the direction of this country. We're worried about our
We're always worried about the direction of this country.
Children and our grandchildren, and we just want the best for them. But when crime is like this, we're very worried. When we have open borders, where fentanyl
Crime is down.
is coming
The borders are not open.
in, when we see what
Fentanyl is coming into this country because of demand. We need more treatments for drug programs. Families like the Sacklers have gotten this country addicted to opioids.
what's happening in Afghanistan, it's just so disheartening to see our country go in this direction.
We're out of Afghanistan now.
We're
not in a war in Afghanistan, so that's a good thing. We're not sending troops over to Afghanistan to be shot and killed because there's people out and about with guns. Those same people, by the way, the Taliban, are the people that Trump said would take care of the terrorisms. And the terrorists are the ones who killed 13 Marines. Also, other forces, but anyway, 13 dead American soldiers because of ISIS-K specifically, ISIS-X, if you listen to Trump. And he said that we're going to get out of the country, leave it to the Taliban because the Taliban are going to take care of the terrorists.
Our men and women that are fighting overseas, questioning whether or not they should have been there at all. It's just, everyone just feels, this Christmas is just such a different Christmas.
Yeah, no kidding, because people don't feel safe, because you can't walk the street. You know, so this homeless guy lit our Christmas tree on fire.
Point of perfect. Now, hold on. Sorry, guys. I'm being disgusting. That's good whitefish. Thank you, Nurse Jojo. I feel safe. I feel very safe right now because the odds of crime actually hurting me are very low. I did have a window just broken into in a car in Seattle. Didn't hurt me. It sucks. It's going to cost me money. It does make me feel unsafe. I wasn't in the vehicle when it was broken into. I wasn't even in the state. Do I feel safe walking around in the city? No, because I can't walk right now, asshole. I feel that like that was a personal attack on me from Steve.
Remember, it was a homeless guy last year who sucker punched Rick Moranis, the movie star, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and things like that.
I didn't even hear about that.
Ghostbusters. He's just walking 7 o'clock in the morning out to get a coffee, and this homeless guy.
Why does he make his coffee at home? Rick, I'm going to tell you about Keurig, and I'm going to tell you about these reusable pods. Do not fill them in advance. That's the nice, right thing to do. That's being a decent human being. But you will pay, my friend. You will pay.
Guy does that to him.
Okay, JoJo's talking. Shh, we're doing a broadcast. I'm sorry. I apologize for her.
The riots, we're burning Christmas trees, we're burning American flags, we're burning churches. You saw the St.
The riots are burning Christmas trees. What?
John's Church in D.C. with the rioting.
Well,
these are American symbols.
And that's why Joe Biden, suddenly they're walking away from, you know, the super progressive left, talking about defunding the police and, you know, all.
Biden has always been against defunding the police. He has always been against that. The Democrats gave the cities of this country $330 billion in order to fund the police. You know how many Republicans voted for that? Zero.
All those things we've heard so much of over the last year, they're walking away. They're trying to push law and order too. Well,
yeah, the riots were more than a year ago, Steve.
Let's see if the American people feel that it's affecting that, because right now what they really feel is inflation every time they fill up the tank.
With the record number of jobs. Oh, by the way, gas prices are coming down. So, oops.
Midterms are a year from now.
Tick, tick.
6:11.
Yeah, and gas prices should continue to go down over the next year because the price of oil, the price of a barrel of oil, took a plummet the other day as well.
And here on the East Coast, Senate Democrats join a GOP-led push to block President Biden's vaccine mandate for private businesses. As Brian was talking about, we're going to tell you the left-leaning lawmakers crossing the aisle and where the mandate goes from here.
Plus, tensions flare between New York City's incoming and outgoing mayors.
Okay, we got to stop because there's music playing, and that's a good place to stop anyway. Let's just jump ahead and see if there's anybody that we really have to see on the Fox and Friends today. Something about Bob Dole. There's nobody in a diner, unfortunately. Moving on, Hillary Clinton. Oh, let's see what they say about Hillary. I'm sure nothing but positive things. She's starting a master class, so let's just watch a little bit about Hillary. You guys watch. I'm going to eat my breakfast. We're not.
If somebody is breaking the mandate, you know what? There's not going to be a penalty because we will just move on. Speaking of just move on, Hillary Clinton has not moved on past that loss to Donald Trump, where Donald Trump beat her by 74 electoral college votes, although she won by, I think, close to 3 million more popular votes. She's doing a master class on the streaming platform. It's going to be released later today in its entirety. But a snippet was released yesterday, and she's really not over it.
She is reading the speech that she was planning on delivering if she won the election in 2016. Listen to this. She gets emotional.
My fellow Americans, today you sent a message to the whole world. Our values endure, our democracy stands strong, and our motto remains E pluribus unum, out of many, one. I've met little boys and girls who didn't understand why a woman has never been president before. Now they know, and the world knows, that in America, every boy and every girl can grow up to be whatever they dream.
Well, that's not true. I can't grow up to be a bird or a giraffe. Stupid.
Even President of the United States.
I can't be president either.
If I could go back in time and tell anyone in history about this milestone, who would it be? My mother, Dorothy. And as hard as it might be to imagine, your daughter will grow up and become the President of the United States. I am as sure of this as anything I have ever known. Together, we will make America even greater than it has ever been.
Remember, Barack Obama had to call her and tell her to concede and say, this is over, it's done. And she never...
I'm pretty sure she would have conceded with or without a call from Barack Obama, the current president at the time, if you guys remember that far back. By the way, Bill Clinton was in power for 8 years, never said anything about the Electoral College. Could have made it an issue. Let's get rid of that thing, because the American people did speak, and they did say, we want Hillary. Doesn't matter what the American people say. It matters what the Electoral College says.
Really did. She did interviews, wrote 2 books afterwards, never conceding. I mean, look at Bob Dole just passed away. He lost. You know what he did? He went on Letterman the next day and just said, listen, that's it. And he showed great personality and was extremely magnanimous.
Well, she revealed she did not have...
Yeah, it would suck to have a president that just won't concede. That would totally suck. What's the Chiron say there? Hillary still gets emotional over losing to Trump. Yeah, could you imagine if Trump lost and wouldn't concede for several days? Can you just imagine?
A concession speech.
Liberty says, so conceding is a good thing now? Yeah.
Written. But here's the thing. Every losing politician has that speech.
Bob Dole is lying in state at the Capitol right now. Yeah, he is. I hate the funeral coverage and the lying in state and the long lines. And it's just, those are boring news days. And really, it's all about me.
Right.
But they
that's a wonderful picture to use of Hillary Clinton. You know, they couldn't go with the shot of the balloons where she's laughing like a crazy person. She's angry at somebody. Thank God she's not president.
Never, ever read it out loud because they lost. Miranda Devine sums it up. Why'd she do it? Says this.
And what's most hilarious is that she's billed
She's not even American. Listen to her voice.
this as some sort of masterclass, I think, that people are supposed to pay for. And it's just...
And they will. Hillary's going to make a ton of dough over this.
Looks like a masterclass in...
Not only is she going to make dough from subscriptions, but Masterclass probably gave her a bucket of money for this. Because now everyone's talking about Masterclass. Masterclass probably has, maybe a 15, 20% awareness factor amongst the general population. This will boost it up to 40, 50%. Not the general population, but the population that could be part of their marketing.
Pity and delusion, or maybe
potential customers.
A masterclass in how to lose an election. That speech is just shocking. And, you know, you have to note that she's, you know, very emotional about this loss from 5 years ago. But
well, she's talking about her dead mother.
She wasn't as emotional. She was quite callous, actually, when she was testifying about Benghazi.
Oh, this is about Benghazi. So wait, hold on a second. She got a subpoena from Congress and she showed up? What an idiot. You're not supposed to cooperate with legislative bodies in the United States? No wonder she lost.
So I just look at those tears and they leave me cold. I normally feel a little sorry.
Aw, tears are warm though. So
sorry for people who are overcome by emotion, but not in this case because it's so self-engrossed.
Well, she's getting
self-engrossed.
Raked over the coals on Twitter. One person said,
"Oh, she's getting raked. Oh, Hillary, you're suffering hits on Twitter." I'm sure she's probably at home right now crying in that closet in the basement where she used to hide those servers.
The next masterclass will involve instruction on how to wipe an email server with a cloth, or one on avoiding Wisconsin and
because she was the mastermind behind having a server.
Paying Russia to meddle in our elections.
You think how the mighty have fallen.
Paying Russia to meddle in our elections. So I'm glad we've moved on to the real news. So we had the Christmas tree. Now it's the masterclass by Hillary, a private corporation, by the way, doing private corporation-y things.
Of Jeffrey Epstein and all the details coming out, not enough about Bill Clinton's frequent...
And Trump. Maxine was introduced to Trump when she was 14 years old. But yeah, it's about Clinton.
Flyer miles that he acquired on that plane back and forth to the island with the teen girls. And then you see him, he was so high and mighty. Now he's crashed and burned. He's toxic. The Clinton Foundation, she's a woman without a party right now, sitting there feeling bad for herself.
Right. Is she, though?
I've never seen well, not never, but it's rare when you see two people fall so precipitously. And add to that, where's the Clinton Foundation now? Where's the good works they're doing? As soon
Malawi, Botswana, South Africa, Swaziland, which is now called Eswatini, Zimbabwe. That's where the Clinton Foundation is. Still has an A+ rating from Charity Navigator. But go on.
As soon as they lose influence and power, that foundation was...
Influence and power, they're a charity.
It's pure politics. It's pretty clear. Now, no one will put $1 into that organization because it did nothing.
Well, no, they still took in millions of dollars last year. Revenue was down. During the pandemic, revenue was down.
Well, she has said in the past, in addition to sitting on the speech, which she finally will read, even though she did not win, she has said in the past that she's spending a lot of time with her family, her grandkids. She's taking walks in the woods. She said she has organized her closet. And here's the important part. She says, I won't lie, Chardonnay helped a little.
Okay.
All right, 6:29 here on the East Coast.
Okay.
A woke library display sparks backlash as sexually explicit books are featured alongside the Bible. A Virginia dad who says the move only creates division sounds off.
The division of, I don't know. I don't care. That's a guy. I'm just looking through here to see if there's anything else that you guys need to see. They're back to the Christmas tree, so that's the top of the hour. Again, it's going to lead. Then violence in the cities. Let's go to the end here because sometimes they have an important guest on at the end. There's a couple of guys in front of an American flag. One of them is wearing a cowboy hat. The other one's wearing a trucker hat. I'm going to pass on that one. There's some weather. A My Pillow ad. Remember they weren't going to advertise My Pillow anymore? There they are. That might be Elizabeth Warren. Hold on. See what this is about.
With all this, we'll get to that momentarily. Also, police in Chicago.
Coming up on your 846.
The electric car.
Not Elizabeth Warren. That is some guy named Bjorn Lomborg from the Hoover Institute, and he's a visiting fellow. So not, in fact, Elizabeth Warren. Very, very much not, in fact, Elizabeth Warren. The same haircut, though. So in my defense, in the thumbnail, what? Okay, the My Pillow guy again. Oh, that's, was that Redfield? Former CDC director. What is this about? He's going to talk about Omicron, the guy who screwed up the tests and wouldn't admit it.
Canada. How worried should we be about that? Here with what we know so far, former CDC director and current AM LLC senior medical advisor, Dr. Robert Redfield. Doctor, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Okay, so scientists have spotted another type of Omicron. They're referring to it as Omicron's sister. Tell us about that.
Well, Steve, what we're going to see, and we're going to continue to see, more and more variants of COVID-19 occur. Some of those variants are going to evolve to be a variant of concern. That concern will really be driven by largely increased transmissibility and the potential to escape our countermeasures. And this is what we should expect, and we should expect this to continue. So the Omicron variant really is the first variant that has shown that it can outcompete Delta, which learned how to outcompete the UK variant, which learned how to outcompete the original Wuhan variant.
Right.
And when these viruses evolve, what they do is they evolve to learn how to be more transmissible. At the same time, they evolve usually to become less pathogenic. Now that
they can go either direction. That's not necessarily true. By the way, who does their beard like that? That takes effort, and I'm not sure why you would take that effort. What are you doing?
can be a
Dr. Ahab. Yeah, thank you, Libby.
problem as you look at the current variant, the Omicron variant, in that many of the people that seem to get it are much less symptomatic.
Right.
But if symptoms is what is sort of the signal for them to stay home, they don't get that signal, and therefore it's more transmissible. It's very, very probable that in the next 6 to 12 weeks, this variant will become the dominant variant in the United States. And then there may be subvariants of it, like you mentioned, that have been recently reported.
And how do we stop that from happening? Testing. Like I've said since day one of this pandemic, testing, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3.
Whether they actually get a transmission advantage over the parent variant or not is yet to be known. But we do know the Omicron variant can do it, because really since the beginning of November, when it first appeared in South Africa, already now it makes up over 70% of all the infections in South Africa.
Well, apparently one of the side effects, doctors are warning that in children who have the Omicron, apparently it's showing up as a rash or something.
It's important that the symptoms seem to be different. You know, the original Wuhan strain, we saw high fevers and we saw pulmonary symptoms and constitutional symptoms. This virus seems to be more characterized not by cough and high fever, but more like aches, pains, fatigue, and as you mentioned, in children,
no, thank you.
about 15% of children develop a rash, which is very common when children get sick. They develop sort of a viral rash. So this is going to be one of the challenges to really, for clinicians and families to recognize, in fact, that COVID
Well, they should come up with a vaccine for kids.
But infection is there because it's going to be less symptomatic.
Right. Doctor, a real quick exit question, and that is, I know that they're already talking about a 4th shot, the 2 fully vaccination shots, then a booster shot, and now the CEO of Pfizer says a 4th COVID vaccine dose may be needed sooner than later.
Cool. Yeah, and we've known this since day one. We may continue to get series of shots until we're done with this pandemic. That's how you beat it, because the pandemic will mutate. The variant will mutate. And it's mutations. It's not doing it on purpose. It's just what viruses do. Every time it replicates itself, there's a chance of a mutation happening. And if it lives in somebody who's immunocompromised, it can mutate over and over and over again. And that's the kind of thing that can happen. So that's the kind of thing we want to prevent. And how do we prevent it? Well, by further vaccines. That's how that works. This is not a surprise to anybody.
Yeah, I think it's important, Steve, that we learn how to move away from this term fully vaccinated. What we really want to do is the vaccination, or is the immunity status of the
Are your vaccinations up to date?
Individual, either by natural infection or vaccine, such that it's protected against a new infection. And it's very, very probable. I mean, these current natural immunity from this infection is limited.
Yes, thank you, guy on right-wing media.
And to a short term, maybe 4-6 months. But so is vaccine-induced immunity. So based on the vaccines that we have available today.
But a vaccine, you can get a booster. You do not want a booster of COVID.
We should anticipate that you're going to have to be vaccinated every probably 6 months or so until we solve the problem of getting a more durable vaccine.
To your earlier point that this thing's going to be around here for a long, long time. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Steve.
Or it could just go away. We could have a highly transmissible. Remember, I've been saying since day one, this is just the rehearsal variant. We could have a highly transmissible with an R0 of 20 or 30 disease that everybody catches, that then builds up our immunity through natural immunity, which you don't want, or that a vaccine takes care of that is hardly symptomatic at all. That becomes the dominant strain, and then there's very little room for any other strains to take over. However, that can either fizzle out or it can create another mutation that is the real virus. So, speaking of real, like not a segue I can work with. My foot is actually really starting to hurt now, so I'm gonna put it up and say good morning to everybody. And if you need me, I'll be laying in bed all day, but getting paid for it. So be good to yourself, be good to others, but most importantly, be good to me.